Most everyone I've ever met, even people who are not very articulate typically as human beings, when they get into that thing that they're passionate about and they begin to share that thing that they really deeply believe in, they can be the most articulate individual in the world. You would never guess that they have speaking faux pas or any of those kind of things, because it's something that is the heart and soul and core and passion of they are. And so I always recommend to people to use speaking to write. Even better yet, to use interview, to have somebody ask you questions that will spark that passion in you and allow you to then be able to answer powerfully, and allow that to then be turned into the book versus sit down in front of a blank piece of paper and be creative on demand.
Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode today of Path to Mastery podcast. And today we're with Mr. Steve Kidd. And what he does is he helps he helps people become best-selling authors, and he helps them get attention with books. How's it going, Steve?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, David?
Hey, I'm doing awesome, man. Appreciate you asking. And man, we were talking right before we started recording about that new thing now, ChatGPT, and I was a little surprised when I heard your answer. Because I was expecting you to say, "Oh, absolutely, we use that in books," and you said, "No, we absolutely don't use that."
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of uses for AI chat, Chat GPT being one of them. And when you're stuck, when you've been saying something and you're like, how could I say this in a little bit more unique way? Chat GPT can come in and really help you refine a sentence or a paragraph. But when it comes to writing a whole book and really expressing who you are and the passion that is you, there isn't any program that's written that can be you or culminate the entirety of the life that you've lived, and try to be able to capture it in a way that your voice and you will capture things.
Okay, I love it. I want to hear more about that. And for you guys, I'm going to read Steve's bio. He's a best-selling author, a business coach, radio show host, who's passionate about helping others share their stories and achieve their dreams. With over 20 books published and multiple bestsellers, Steve knows that a bestseller can turn you into an industry leader. His heart-driven approach has already helped thousands of people to make a positive impact on the world. Let's discover Steve's strategies for achieving bestseller status and becoming the go-to expert in your field. So why is that important, Steve? For starters, like, why is it important? Like, does it really make a difference to have a best-selling book when it comes to your field? Why? Tell us about
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ultimately, I'm a marketing company with a strong publishing division. I've been in marketing since 1987, internet marketing since literally before we had the word the internet. And what I can tell you is there is nothing that will maximize the return of a marketing campaign like adding to it being a best-selling author, having a best-selling book. You will never have your maximum return on any marketing that you do if you don't have that as part of it. Best-selling author is the number one influencer credential, bar none. My medical doctors that have been doctors for 20 years in their field would be the first ones to tell you they get more notoriety out of being a best-selling author than they do out of being an absolute total expert in their field, having done it for years and years.
Okay, so when you say best-selling author, because I have two books. There's one on the wall behind me, Sales Playbook, and the publisher that helped me, he got it to what was a best-selling status on Amazon, right? Like in a certain sales genre, right? Like for a couple of days, so then you can call it a best-selling book. Is that what you're referring to, or is there something more than that? Because to be honest with you, for me, that didn't really make much of a difference. So
Well,
when you say bestseller status, like, explain bestseller status to us. Like, what does that actually mean? I just shared an
so
example of what I paid somebody to do, and it did nothing for me except cost me some money for
I
the most part.
mean, becoming a bestseller is like graduating from medical school. You go to medical school, you pass the test, you cross stage, you are now officially Dr. David. Okay. But nobody's going to give you a prescription pad or a patient until you go ahead and take care of this person. You have just proven really that you have the knowledge capability to pass a test on anatomy and physiology. That's what a doctor of medicine is. Same would be true, in a doctorate and any other level. The doing of it is what goes beyond that. So, when we talk about becoming a bestseller, it is literally should be, from a marketing standpoint, the beginning of your sales and marketing journey for whatever you're doing. It's the foundation that you build everything else on. Now, with that said, let's go back to your specific example of you being a bestseller for 2 days. Over 80% of the people in the world say that they want to write a book. Less than 5% ever do. Even with the influx of all the things that make it easy to do, still less than 5% ever do. And of that 5%, so if you take that 5% and make that a new 100% category, less than 5%, it's actually almost less than 2% of those people ever become best-selling authors. It is still just as valid, whether you're a bestseller for an hour or like one of my authors, Carl Michelle, who's been a bestseller since January of 2016. That has more to do with the marketing approach to your book and to your overall company. It does not delegitimize any more than, if you graduated from medical school and you are Dr. David, but then you got a job doing, I don't know, construction work, something that has nothing to do with medical, it would not mean that you're not a doctor. It would just simply mean that that is not the focus of what you're doing to make money.
Yeah, got it. Okay, I mean that makes sense. I just kind of threw that out there too because I know a lot of people don't these days. I've heard people say, "Well, bestseller, everybody's a bestseller," but like you said, not everybody's a bestseller. Only a very and like you said, only 5% of people ever write a book. And out of the 5%, you said it was what, only 2% ever hit the bestseller list, right?
Yeah.
That's a small number. That's a really small number. So what is like talk to us what do you consider like what is the bestseller list? Like what does that even mean? Is it a
I
certain amount of books sold? Is it like what does it actually mean to people?
Well, I do most definitely look only at Amazon's list. It's the only list I know of that is statistically driven, meaning that if a book is at number 2 and another book's at number 3, the book at number 2 sold more copies to unique individuals during that 1 hour time frame. Now, the downside to Amazon's bestseller list is that it does update hour by hour. So it has the potential for being a much more volatile list, but it also is the absolutely accurate list. So when you see a book and it's listed as a bestseller on Amazon right now, that means that of all the books that are on Amazon, the tens of millions of books
Mm,
that are out there, that book currently, it's about 8 or 12 hours behind, but basically currently is the best selling book or is number 2 or is number 5 or wherever it is in that category. Now they are category based. So, obviously people could do tricks and they could put you in underwater basket weaving or something like that and have it not be legit. But I am talking about people whose books are categorized in the proper way for the book, that then do the marketing. And then whether after that 1 hour or 2 days or 2 years or whatever, if continuing to do sales of the book is part of your marketing program, that's a more advanced conversation in marketing than, just the fact that the book became a bestseller.
got it. Yeah. So that's what I learned is that's writing the book's only the first step. Actually getting people aware of the book is another whole universe of steps, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's probably I wouldn't say it's the harder part, but it's there's a lot of books in obscurity, right? That are
Oh
just
yeah.
so how important is it? So to your point, only 5% will ever write a book. How important is it for someone to hit that bestseller list, though, in your opinion? You think someone like if two people are approaching somebody for maybe like a keynote or something, is it going to make a difference?
It makes a night and day difference. Like you said, it is the number one influencer credential. It is the easiest to market. If you were putting on an event and you had two people come to you, if you can market one of them as the best selling author of XYZ book, it makes the marketing better. Yeah, absolutely. Having the ability to say you're a best selling author, having your topic be based off of a best selling book. I'll give you a perfectly easy example. Use the most basic thing that all of us do, an opt-in on your website. If you have an opt-in that is, here's 5 things that'll really help you with your business, or if you have here is 5 things based off of my best-selling book to help you with your business, you
Mm,
can tell just in the languaging of that how much more powerful and more convertible that becomes.
thank you. You just gave me a huge tip right there, because that my book's the 11 Simple Strategies to close more sales. So that's awesome. All right, what are some of the mistakes that you see when it comes to writing a book? Like, what would you say are maybe some of the mistakes, and then some ways people can work through those mistakes?
Well, I'll even go back to our conversation earlier about ChatGPT. Um, Everybody needs to be an author. Almost nobody is a writer.
Mm,
And the reason why I bring ChatGPT back up is because if you go into ChatGPT and you say, rewrite this paragraph, and honestly, the paragraph isn't real great to begin with. It may give you something that's a little bit better, but it may not necessarily give you anything that's really that of value. On the other hand, most everyone I've ever met, even people who are not very articulate typically as human beings, when they get into that thing that they're passionate about and they begin to share that thing that they really deeply believe in, they can be the most articulate individual in the world. You would never guess that they have speaking faux pas or any of those kind of things because it's something that is the heart and soul and core and passion of they are. And so I always recommend to people to use speaking to write. Even better yet, to use interview, to have somebody ask you questions that will spark that passion in you and allow you to then be able to answer powerfully, and allow that to then be turned into the book versus sit down in front of a blank piece of paper and be creative on demand. That would be definitely the number one thing. Um, and secondly, I would say on top of that is don't do the things that aren't your forte. Um, a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to make sure that the commas are in the right place, going through Grammarly and having it tell you all the places that you should change. And then the book sounds weird because,
mm,
Grammarly isn't always that accurate when it comes to grammar. Not to mention the fact that really grammar is more of an art than a science. If you put 100 editors on a book, you'd get 100 different edits of your book, and every single one of them would tell you how wrong the others are. But it's important for you to have somebody that's what they're passionate about. It's just like doing taxes. It's so much better to just take your material into a guy that loves doing taxes and have them do yours than to spend the days, weeks, months that a lot of people do gruelingly poring over their taxes, only then to have the IRS turn around and say, hey, you totally missed this whole section, or find out later, there was a great big tax break you could have taken if you would have only known. So, you speaking and make use of people who are experts at the other parts of the process.
got it. So what I hear you saying is don't go about this. You don't have to go about this alone, sitting
No.
with a pad and well. So, and by the way, I used a ghostwriter, and I thought that was a phenomenal experience. I mean, and I don't know, maybe I'm not sure what your thoughts are on ghostwriting. I mean, I would not tell you I was a writer by any means. I can put a pretty good email together now, honestly, using ChatGPT.
Right.
I mean, I'm decent, but then I add that to it, and I still don't just copy and paste what it gives me. I make tweaks to it, but I used a ghostwriter, and it was a phenomenal process. It took 11 months. We once a week she'd interview me for like 60 to 90 minutes, and then she'd send me back what she wrote, and I'd go through it and make changes, send it back to her. And the wildest thing is everybody that knows me, that read my book, says your book sounds just like you.
That's good.
Yeah. So are you a fan of ghostwriters, or are you more of a fan of you guys should be doing the writing yourself, or does it matter?
Well, again, I'm a big fan of the doing it via interview and having a content development editor rather than a ghostwriter. The content development editor is going to come in and use your words and put the story together. A typical ghostwriter, once you get to know that ghostwriter, you can begin to hear their voice in everything they write.
Hmm.
All of us have certain ways that we say and state things. And whereas when we're talking, we do very much speak in a certain way. And that feel of it really just being like you're talking to me when I'm reading the book is the just total win for people when they're reading a book.
That makes a ton of sense. Okay, good. Well, I didn't know that. I wrote my book in 16, and I think it came out good, but I didn't realize there was because when you said interview, that's what I was thinking. Well, that's what I did, but it's a different type of interview. All right, good stuff, man. So what are some of the questions? Well, before that, I want to get back into the because there's a lot of people right now that are promoting writing your book, like it's become so common. Like that's why I said like ChatGPT is like a great topic to even bring into the conversation. So mainstream. What do you say to all those people that are saying now's the greatest opportunity in the world to go out there and use ChatGPT to create an ebook? You can do that in 20 minutes, or you can write a full book in a couple hours. Like what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so there's a few basic concepts you have to understand about ChatGPT. I'll try not to go too technology on you. I mean, I have been in that space my whole life, so I get it. Um, a Any program can only give you back what was programmed into it. Although we call it artificial intelligence and it does have some learning capability, even the learning capability is constricted by what was written into the programming for it. So it's not going to go off and have a stray thought on you. That's both good and bad. The downside to that is there are particular ideological beliefs that are inherent in the programmer, whether those align with you or don't. It would depend on the particular individual. And also, I actually did an experiment with ChatGPT. So I took it was just a couple of paragraphs that I was writing for the header basically of a website. And I ran it through there and said, rewrite this. And then it has the option at the end of it to, well, rewrite it again. I'm not really totally sure that I loved what you did. And what I found is that each time it did it, it was almost more like it was missing the mark more each time it redid it, than that it was refining and getting better. And that's some of the constraints that they're still working on, and they'll get there with it. But ultimately, the biggest piece of it is when you're writing, there are things that are going to come up that are personal stories. And if you're just telling the basic concept of stuff and then you put it into ChatGPT, they can write it and make it flowing and elegantly, but they're not going to be able to be like, oh, yeah, you remember the time back in fifth grade when me and Johnny did such and such and we got in so much trouble and oh my gosh, and then we got home and our parents. ChatGPT doesn't know your life. It doesn't know what that was like, and it can't really express. And that's the biggest place in it is that vulnerability and connection, human to human, is still very much missing out of those kind of things because they can connect a little bit, but the thing that makes your book the most unique is the fact that you're going to say, do, and be exactly who you are. And that's going to connect to people that you were meant to connect with. And if you take you out of the equation and you put ChatGPT or a ghostwriter or anybody else in there, you're going to begin to diminish, if not completely remove, that connection to that person that's waiting on exactly the way you're going to say it, because from the way you say it, they'll get the help they need.
Okay. I love it. Interesting. I love it. We have a few people. I'm gonna see if anybody here on Clubhouse has a question. Anybody have a question for Steve? you do, just either raise your hand or on mic. And Steve, tell us what, as we're waiting, in your opinion, what makes what makes a best-selling book? Like, what are some of the things that you should be looking for if you, like, somebody's just listening now, like, I want a best-selling book. What would you say to that person? Where would they start, and what would make it a best-selling book?
Well, there's two sides to that equation. From a marketing company standpoint, becoming a bestseller is a marketing strategy. And it really is mostly about SEO. For the search engine that is Amazon, it's setting up all the keywords, categories, everything in Amazon so that anytime traffic is driven towards your book, it will show up in the rankings. So that's one piece of it. And that is very much a technology and marketing play. And that's a very big piece of it. As far as from the writing aspect of it, the thing that makes the best of books is a book that is vulnerable, valuable, and is simple. Meaning, take a point, make that one point really clear, and give the people a clear action from that point. Allow yourself to share who you are, share that one thing, let those people take that one step, and then, because there is always a second step, let that be book two versus trying to cram everything we know into one book, which all of us have done.
Yeah, is that one of the? I know that seems like it's probably one of the biggest mistakes, even not just in a book, but in a speech or a talk, right? Like, you see, trying to get every single thing into one
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
Cool. So let me ask you this: what else should I have asked you that I didn't ask today? Like, what did I miss here? And you tell me, or is there anything else that you wanted me to ask that I didn't ask today?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing, the name of my 20th number one international best-selling book is Bestseller is Only the Beginning.
Mm.
Bestseller is the beginning. It's the foundation. It's the start. I kind of touched on that a little bit, but it's important for you to understand, um, you know, it's only going to work if you have a plan to work with it. So if you build a great foundation for an amazing house, but then you just walk away from it, that's not going to be the greatest house on the block. You have to build something onto the foundation. The same thing is true with your bestseller. You can be the number one, and I'm talking about the number one book, like outranking every single other book in the entirety of all of Amazon. And if you don't do something on day two, on week two, on year two, with the book specifically, that ranking isn't going to stay. Now, that isn't to say that individual sales of your book is the marketing plan, but you need to have a plan of, what am I going to do with this credential that I'm creating, so that we start with bestseller and then we move from there into all of the things that you're meant to do in the world.
So talk about that. Like, what is day two then? If what would be like, okay, you have the book now, what would be the strategy for day two?
So, typically speaking, it's going to be something like getting booked on podcasts or as speakers, selling a course, or those kind of things, group programs. It could be, if it's your first book, especially, that your day two may be, now I'm going to take and make this book my opt-in giveaway, like we were talking about earlier. And then I'm going to have a second book, or a course that has a book with it. But those are some of the kind of ideas. Is you want to have something, because yes, you could sell books, and I know people that make millions of dollars selling books. But the truth of the matter is that you're going to make $1, maybe $2 typically per book. It's really hard to make significant money $1 or $2 at a time, versus if you were
Mm.
selling, for example, a course that was $1,000. That's the equivalent of 1,000 sales, with about the same amount of time, effort, and energy as it takes to sell one book individually. And so, really, it's about having a system in place so that you can do, like, for example, Dr. Drayon Birch, one of my authors, did. His book was designed for doctors to create a business out of their medical practice. And he sold $160,000 worth of admissions into his course in the first 60 days because he wrote the book on purpose, had the course ready to go. The book led them to, I invite you to join my course. And it was a natural next step for them to go in and do that.
Smart. Smart. Yeah. I think most people probably, well, I don't know if that's most people, but I'm guessing like a lot of people don't come into it thinking, well, my goal is to sell 1 million books, but it's more like what you just talked about. Like, okay, it gives me credibility now. I can get, I can get workshops, events, keynotes, create a product. Is that accurate, or do a lot of people go into it like, I want to be I remember we interviewed Jeffrey Gitomer a while back, and he sold like 9 million books or something ridiculous. But I don't think he even knew he was going to sell that many books when he first started.
I think Seth Godin said it best. I heard him say one time, he said, if you're writing your book to make money, then don't. But if you want to make money, you absolutely have to have a book. And I think that's the best way of looking at your book is it is the tool that's going to lead you to the money. And if you happen to sell 9 million copies of your book, that think of that as a bonus to what else you're doing in the world versus being the strategy and the goal of what you're doing.
Good stuff, man. Well, I appreciate you doing this with me today. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Like people I'm guessing what you're going to do is you're going to help people write the book and then market the book.
I have
is that
the
accurate?
full system in place for, all the way from, hey, I don't even know what I want to write, all the way to writing, publishing, marketing to bestseller, and, all the marketing beyond that. So the best thing to do, let's give people a free gift. Love giving people gifts. If you go to ongoingwealthguide.com, that's ongoingwealthguide.com. That is a free 5-step program to help you design and develop a process so that you can continuously generate abundance in your own life. And that regardless of what the bank account may say today, that you have a system in place to to continue to build and grow your life and your business. That's ongoingwealthguide.com, and that's for all the listeners for free.
Awesome. Ongoingwealthguide.com. I'm going to ask you a question about my book. So the book behind me, I went and I bought the rights back from the publisher about a year and a half ago. Just because like I said, it wasn't what I expected. But my goal doing that was I want to add a chapter. The book was written in 2017 before before I was involved with like SMS and social media and all that. So I want to add a chapter or two. What would be your suggestion for someone like me that has the book? I have all the, the electronic files and all that stuff. What would be the smart place for me to start? Kind of a self-serving question. Or would I talk to you and say, hey,
yeah. I mean, that's what we do all day long with people. And, we're going to sit down and talk about the strategy of, what's your book for, who's it for, what's going to serve them best, what is the action that we want people to take at the end of the book. We'll have a content development editor come in and look at what's missing, as well as the things you were thinking about adding, and give you some suggestions. And then, we'll just schedule a Zoom call and get on Zoom and get you talking and have you speak out all the content. And my staff can take it from there and put the book together for you. Of course, ultimately, you have the final say and you can do any of the final tweaks, but we can do all that for you, and then if you want to redo or tweak the cover or any of those kind of things, of course, we're going to make the book a bestseller and share it with the world.
Well, then let's do that. Let's after this, we'll schedule a call, and we'll love to learn more. Smells like a smart plan. All right. Final thoughts for people that listened. What do you want them to walk away with today? Is there any one thing you want them to make sure they take from listening to this today?
Absolutely. I want you to remember somebody's waiting on you. There is somebody, they may even be on Google literally searching for something that you do so easily that you probably aren't even thinking about writing a book about it because it's just so easy. Everybody must know that. But it's difficult for somebody else. And somebody is going to continue to make those wrong choices or not know what choices to make until you take the time to share who you are and what you know with the world. So share your message with the world, put it out there, get it in written form, share it so that not only now, but even hundreds of years from now, people can know how wonderfully and amazing you are, and you can make a difference in the people's lives that you were meant to make.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you again, Steve. And the gift is, I wrote it down. Now I can't even find it in my handwriting. There it is. Yeah.
Ongoingwealthguide.com.
Ongoingwealthguide.com, and get your is it a PDF? It's a 5 steps.
It's a PDF, and it has
Got
5
it.
steps in it. Yeah.
Perfect. So go get that, and that'll get you in a start, and then you can connect with Steve if you need more information. And Steve, I want to get connected with you as well. So that said, I appreciate your time today, and thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, David.